Dune is directed by Denis Villeneuve and stars Timothée Chalamet, Rebecca Ferguson, Zendaya, Oscar Isaac, Stellan Skarsgård, Jason Momoa, and a whole cast of others. And this is part one of the featured adaptation of Frank Herbert's science fiction novel about the son of a noble family entrusted with the protection of the most valuable asset and most vital element in the galaxy. Of all the movies that came out this year, this was the one I was most excited for. Reason being, Dune is one of those sci-fi classics that the books, I think it's 6 books in all. The books, the only adaptation we've gotten of those books, some of the greatest science fiction novels ever written. I've heard it described as Star Wars for goths, and yeah, I could see that. But I'm not a goth, and I absolutely love this. And my first real exposure to Frank Herbert's Dune was, of course, the original film, the first film done by David Lynch. I know some people hate it, some people love it. I fall in the latter category, guys. I used to watch that movie every single chance that I got. Every time it would show at least once a year on Sci-Fi Channel. I remember that, and I remember always trying to watch it, even with all those commercial interruptions at that time. Yes, I'm dating myself a bit here, but I would always try to watch it. I was absolutely fascinated by Dune. It wasn't Star Wars for me. It was something different, something deeper, something that every time I watched it, I learned a bit more about this world that Frank Herbert had created, this galaxy, I should say. And then I heard Denis Villeneuve was going to be the man bringing me the latest adaptation of this story. And I love this director so much. I love his style so much that I was ecstatic. So, where do I stand now that I've seen it? Still very much ecstatic, still very pleased, and still very excited to see where they could go with this, because there's a lot that was left out of this. So, let's get into it. And where I start, as usual, is with the visuals. Now, like I said before, this is Denis Villeneuve. If you've seen his work, if you've seen Arrival, if you've seen the films that he's done, you know that aesthetics and cinematography was not going to be a problem. He brings this world to life. This world feels, at least it did for me, it feels lived in. It feels like these places could actually exist. And I know there are a lot of people who are probably going into this who have not read the books. And let me be clear, I have not read the books. What I have done is checked out YouTube channels like Comic Book Girl 19. She did this awesome book club on Dune. And I would just listen along to everything she was saying and just absorb everything she was saying. So I learned more about the world from that. I really do want to read the books, but time has been against me. And there's also podcasts and stuff that I've been following that also have been unpacking this universe that Herbert created. So I was really pleased to see visually what I got here, because I could picture everything that I had heard, everything that I know is in the books. I'm seeing it here. I'm seeing it brought to amazing life here. You know, the vehicles, the planets, all of it is just, the costume design, all of it really works. And what I loved most about it is, if you are a fan of the original film, I'm not saying at all that he's following that film at all. I'm not saying that. This is definitely the books, because based on everything that I know, that's what I'm seeing here. But I could totally see the inspiration where it meshes together, where it's like, yeah, that's what I remember, that's what that should look like, you know, that sort of thing. So the planets, the visuals, the sound design, you know, and there's a lot of large scale vehicles, and of course we have the sandworms. So the sound design is so important here to bring across that scale or the scale and scope of what this planet is, and what and the people that live on it, and that sort of thing. So all of that worked really well for me. This, I could totally see why Christopher Nolan loves this film. He's also a man who's very much about aesthetics and cinematography, and I can see why he praised this film the way he did, because on that level this film does not disappoint in the least. At least it did not disappoint me. As we go along, we of course introduced to the characters, and I think the casting of Timothée Chalamet as Paul Atreides is pitch perfect. Because based on the description of this character in the book, first of all, Paul is supposed to be younger, so if you've only seen Kyle MacLachlan's, am I saying that correctly? If you've only seen Kyle's portrayal of Paul, like I did for years before I looked into the books and all of that, you'd probably think that he was an older person. No, he's supposed to be about 15, 16 years old, I think. So Timothy fit, even though I know he's not 15, he fit. He has that look. The character is supposed to be this very skinny, kind of fragile looking person, so he fit perfectly for me. So did Oscar Isaac, and so did the always beautiful, always amazing Rebecca Ferguson as Jessica. All of that, I think the casting here is so good. I kind of miss Brad Dourif. I kind of miss Sting. I know that's a weird thing to say. I know the character is a bit over the top and ridiculous in that version. And guys, what I'm doing here is I'm referring back and forth to the David Lynch version, just because this is who I've been picturing in my mind. This is what I picture they look like, and now I'm seeing these new actors taking up the mantle. And yet, for me, it works. It does work. Also, of course, we have Jason Momoa. I mean, basically being Jason Momoa. Let's face it. That's this is a role kind of tailor made for a guy like Momoa. But casting wise, I think everybody looks the part. Now, do they play the part? And this is where things get to be a little bit shaky, in my opinion. We're going into the story and we're going into the characters. Now, the story of Dune is not something that could ever be told in one movie. As a matter of fact, the original title for this film is Dune Part 1, rightfully so. The original take, I think it was 1984, David Lynch's version, they did try to condense and pack those 6 books, everything into one. And that's where that movie suffers. This is a vast, vast universe. This is Game of Thrones level storytelling. And to try and put that all in one was never going to work. So I'm glad to see that this is part 1. That said, character development is a bit of an issue here. Now, a friend of mine, he's also a reviewer, he pointed this out, and so I hadn't seen the movie as yet, but I went in with that in my head. I do try to always avoid other people's reviews before I check something out, but it's something that I would have picked up, I think, as well, because when you compare this to, say, the first Matrix movie, I think I can work with that. The first Matrix movie, take Neo and take Paul, because they're basically kind of the same characters, right? They are our messiahs. And there's a lot more that the Wachowskis did in developing Neo as a full fleshed out character, as well as Morpheus and Trinity. We get a lot more character development in just that first film than we do in this version of Dune. Here we get broad brushstrokes of who Paul is, the Duke, Jessica, all of these characters, the Baron. It's very broad brushstrokes. That's the best way I could put it. So it's not that we don't get some character development. It's not that we don't get some idea, some concept of who these people are, but it's not as well done as, say, they did in the Matrix. I don't know if I'm making sense here, because The Matrix, maybe when they made The Matrix, the first movie, maybe they did not have a trilogy in mind. I don't know. So they gave you all of that in one. With Dune, we know for a fact that there are more books. So we know that we're going to need time to get to know these characters, their motivations, their passions, their hatreds, all these different things. We're going to have to give it time to see these characters develop and really connect with them. I just felt like we needed a little bit more connection in this first movie. And I feel like there was so much focus on making it visually stunning, making it hit you where it mattered, in your eye holes. It was so focused on people coming out of that cinema saying, wow, that looked amazing, that I think the character development took a back seat. And to me, that's a stumble. That's not something you want to see, because we want to be invested in these people. We want to see Paul and his mom, and we want to see House Atreides rise. It's like I said, it's like Game of Thrones in that way. You're gonna have your favorites, you're gonna have people you despise, but you don't just want a villain who is villainous because he's big and fat and scary and floats around the room, and there's a reason for that, because he's so big he can't walk, so he floats everywhere. And that these people are scary looking because they have no eyebrows, and that's about it. They're just the bad guys because they're bad. We don't want that. Leave that for cartoons, for kids. We want to see what drives these people. And there is a lot that was from in the books that was kind of left out here that I feel might have benefited from us having it. Moments that took place prior to the events that happens to the House Atreides, that would have gotten us a little more knowledge into who Duke Leto is. Is it Leto? Yeah, I think so. The Baron, he's evil, but there's more to him than just that, And the world of Dune itself, I mean, again, you can't unpack all of this in one film. You really can't. But, there's so much about what that spice is and what it represents, and, the ecological impacts and environmental impacts, I should say, political impacts. When you think of what spice is in the world of Dune, it's kind of like oil and drugs and magic and everything, because it does everything, guys. It powers their ability to fly into space. It opens up your mind so that you can have abilities like to be psychic and all this sort of stuff. It does so much. It lengthens your life. It despises all. So I just wish we would have gotten a bit more from these characters, a bit more to hold on to right from the beginning, so we'd be completely invested in more people than just Paul and Jessica going into the second film. You know what I mean? But that said, guys, I did enjoy this movie a lot. I am very pleased with what I got here, and I cannot wait to see where it goes. I hope they cover all 6 books. I really do. I think there's even a prequel and stuff, but I really hope we get the entire universe of Dune finally on screen. I really want to see that, because based on everything I've read and heard and seen, this could be amazing for this generation to behold. It could be the next Game of Thrones. It could be, granted, like I said, these books came out a while back, but it does not take away anything from how glorious they are and how good they are. And this is something new. I mean, who doesn't want something new? Who doesn't want, yeah, we all love Star Wars and Star Trek and Lord of the Rings and all this stuff, but we've seen that. So let's get something new out there. And for me, this Dune was a strong 7.5 out of 10. I really enjoyed this movie, and I cannot wait to see where they go with it. I really can't. And that's going to be it for this one, guys. So if you loved this movie, if this was a 10 out of 10 for you, let me know why. I've only seen it once, so my score will probably go up on second viewings. I don't know. But as of right now, it's a 7.5 out of 10 for me. And if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to hit that thumbs up button. It's always appreciated. If you're new and you would like to subscribe to my channel, you can click on my face when it pops up right about there. And if you want to check out past videos, you can do that right along this ways. And that's going to be it for this one, guys. So until the next one, bye-bye.